You're still here. I suppose you've been waiting for me this whole time. 6 years. 6 years since my fiancée, Chloe Sterling, had vanished from our wedding altar, choosing instead to undergo an experimental cryopreservation. Her reason? Rhys, her ex-boyfriend, had fallen into a coma, and she vowed to wait for him, quite literally, until he woke. And now, Rhys was awake. And so was Chloe. She'd brought him straight back to the Sterling family estate, the mansion I'd called home for half a decade. Seeing me, she'd simply concluded I'd been here, a loyal sentinel, all along. Her gaze swept over me, a dismissive flick. Rhys isn't fully recovered from the hospital. He'll need care. I'll allow him to stay in the house. I waited a beat, letting her words hang in the air, then responded, my voice flat. I'm married, Chloe, and I don't need your permission to be in this house. Her perfectly sculpted lips curled, a flicker of disdain in her eyes. Don't pretend, Leo. Everyone knows you were madly in love with me. A mocking laugh escaped her. My heart belongs to Rhys. I'll marry him and spend the rest of my life making it up to him. Nothing you do will change that. She waved a dismissive hand. You've waited 6 years. I won't be completely heartless. Rhys is still weak. I'll let him stay so I can care for him. Her words echoed the woman I'd known, a woman utterly convinced of her own irresistible charm and the unwavering devotion of those around her. But 6 years had passed, and I was no longer the man who had loved her so blindly, who had let others call him her shadow. I hadn't lied. I was married, and my presence here had nothing to do with her. Chloe scoffed, stepping closer. I see. You think you're a real Sterling now, don't you? Don't forget, that ceremony never finished. We never signed the marriage certificate. Living here for 6 years as my supposed husband doesn't make it real. She was right. The wedding had never been completed. 6 years ago, I had stood at the altar, my heart thrumming with anticipation as I watched her approach. Then, someone whispered something to her. Her face went ashen. Her hand, which had been resting on mine, squeezed so hard it hurt. Then, a sharp crack echoed through the silent hall as she slapped me across the face, right in front of everyone. If anything happens to Rhys, I'll never forgive you, she shrieked, then turned and ran, leaving me stunned, reeling, and utterly humiliated. Now, Rhys, still pale from his ordeal, spoke with a feigned innocence. Chloe, perhaps I should go. After all, this is his home now. He gripped her hand, his face a picture of wounded reluctance. Chloe instantly pulled him into a tight embrace. No, Rhys, don't go. I won't let you leave me again. She turned her venomous gaze back to me. I only agreed to marry you because I knew how obsessed you were with me. Otherwise, Rhys wouldn't have been so distraught he fell into a coma. These past 6 years, he lost everything, and it's all your fault. Back then, blinded by love, I hadn't seen her callousness. Now, I felt nothing but a cold resentment. Listen to me, Chloe, I said, my voice cutting through her self-pity. Rhys's coma had nothing to do with me. She cut me off, her eyes blazing. I'm letting you stay here so you can atone. If you're going to be this ungrateful, then get out of the Sterling mansion immediately. You have no right to kick me out, Chloe. You and your... I began, but was interrupted as Davies, the family butler, bustled in, his face alight with excitement. Miss Sterling, I've informed the grandfather and madam. They're on their way back from the city. Chloe nodded curtly. Good. Prepare the large ground floor suite for Rhys. He shouldn't exert himself too much, so he can stay there for now. Davies's expression faltered. I'm afraid, miss, that room was renovated into young Master Finn's playroom. It's not suitable for a guest anymore. Chloe frowned. Young Master Finn? When did I get a little brother? At the mention of my son, Davies's gaze softened. His voice was filled with warmth. Young Master Finn is 5 years old now, Mississippi. He's a charming, lively, and adorable boy. I'm sure you'll adore him when you meet him. Chloe paused. Then her lips curved into a sneer. Wow, Mom still got it, doesn't she? Following trends, having another child at her age. I stared at her, utterly aghast. She had been so selfish as to put herself in suspended animation, without a second thought, just to wait for another man. And now, returning, she couldn't even be bothered to learn what had changed in 6 years. She simply walked in, made demands, and jumped to insane conclusions. I wondered if the cryo sleep had damaged her brain. Davies cleared his throat, a forced chuckle escaping him. Miss is jesting, of course. Young Master Finn is your cousin, miss. He's Madame Alara's son, and Madame Alara is your father's sister. Chloe froze, then burst into loud laughter. Anne Alara married? I thought she was allergic to men. I thought she'd be single forever. She leaned forward, her voice full of theatrical curiosity. Quick, tell me, who's her new husband? I'll die if I don't know what kind of man could win her over. Davies's face became a mask of profound discomfort. He glanced at me, saw my composure, and wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, his voice trembling slightly. Madame Alara married Mr. Leo, Mississippi. He is Madame's husband, and also your uncle. 6 years ago, after Chloe had pushed me to the ground, abandoning me at the altar amidst a torrent of whispers and judgmental stares, her aunt, Alara Sterling, had walked onto the stage, silencing the entire hall. She looked at me, her eyes unreadable, and asked a question that brought my shattered world to a complete halt. If I asked you, would you be willing to marry me? I was utterly devastated, but she simply tilted her head, whispering, I intended to stop this wedding, but the bride saved me the trouble by running off. Now, you cannot let me lose face. Her words stunned me, but at the same time, they pulled me back from the brink of total collapse. Alara Sterling, a brilliant, beautiful, confident, and successful woman, a role model in the eyes of countless men. Yet this extraordinary woman extended her hand to save me from utter humiliation at the altar. Why should I care about the woman who had just destroyed my world? And so, I married Chloe's aunt. Back in the present, Chloe's entire body stiffened. A mocking smile played on her lips. Davies, have you lost your mind? My Aunt Alara? Do you know who she is? How could she stoop to someone like Leo? She lifted her chin, her voice dripping with arrogance. Aunt Alara is a genius in the business world. She started her own company in college, building an empire from scratch. When her talent was recognized, Grandfather Sterling entrusted her with the family business. That's why the Sterling name is so renowned today. Besides Grandfather, no one in this family dares to contradict Aunt Alara. She smirked. When she interfered with my wedding, I thought she was just trying to save the family's honor. I even thought she'd quietly divorce you soon after. But no, she never mentioned it. After the wedding, she became a gentle, thoughtful, exemplary wife. Chloe turned to me, her eyes narrowing with contempt. This man is still here simply because he can't bear to leave me. He stayed because of me. Don't delude yourself. Davies hastily wiped his brow, his voice pleading. I'm telling the truth. Mississippi Mr. Leo truly is your uncle. Their son is about to graduate preschool. If you don't believe me, you can ask anyone in the house. Chloe's eyes darted around, her face tightening. Besides you, everyone here is a stranger. Did you bribe a dozen butlers and replace everyone in the house just to keep your position, Leo? You truly are a schemer. You'd do anything to marry into the Sterling family, wouldn't you? I remained impassive. 6 years is a long time, Chloe. Things change. You're overthinking this. Chloe snorted. Oh, you always have an excuse, don't you? I was going to give you a few $1 million as compensation for waiting for me all these years. But it seems I was too generous. Her voice sharpened, laced with anger. While you've been living comfortably in my family's mansion, Rhys has been struggling between life and death in a hospital bed. I command you, get on your knees and apologize to him right now. Davies gasped, horrified. Miss, you can't. Mr. Leo is your elder now. You cannot make your own uncle kneel before someone else. I stood up, stepping forward. Rhys's eyes gleamed with triumph, clearly expecting me to kneel and beg for forgiveness. But I walked straight past him and bent down. Finn, my 5-year-old son, covered in mud from whatever game he'd been playing, launched himself into my arms, squealing with delight. Dad, I caught a whole bunch of tadpoles. Chloe's eyes nearly bulged from their sockets. She stared at my son's face, then shrieked, her voice shrill. Leo, where did that child come from? You promised you'd only have children with me. She was almost screaming, her voice piercing. My Aunt Alara is as cold as ice, only ever thinking about work. How could she possibly marry you? You can't fool me. Rhys's eyes darted between us, and he poured fuel on the fire, his voice feigning outrage. Leo, do you really think Chloe would stay in cryosleep forever? Did you find a child that looks like her and pretend he's yours to seize the Sterling family assets? You're a terrible person. Finn didn't understand what the adults were saying, but his instincts told him the man was bad. He stood in front of me, his small face serious. Dad, is that bad man bullying you? Don't worry, I'll protect you. Chloe's eyes wavered slightly, as if she'd just realized something. But then she turned to the boy, her voice harsh. You impudent brat, are you trying to cause trouble? Davies immediately stepped in, trying to mediate. Miss, please calm down. Young Master Finn truly is your cousin. Madame Alara will be here soon, and you'll see I'm not lying. I gently squeezed my son's shoulder, unwilling to let them drag him into this mess. Davies, please take Finn upstairs for a bath. Just as Davies led Finn away, Chloe's parents returned. Seeing their daughter, Mrs. Sterling burst into tears, checking her over, gently slapping her arm. You foolish girl, going into cryo sleep without a word. Do you know how worried I was? If you hadn't woken up, what would your father and I have done? But Mr. Sterling, her father, saw Rhys standing beside her, and his face darkened. Who allowed you to bring him here? Mrs. Sterling quickly grabbed her husband's arm, whispering urgently. Sterling, hush. Do you want her to go back into cryosleep again? The words immediately silenced him. No matter how angry, a father's love still won. Chloe turned to her parents, her voice full of emotion. Rhys is awake. If I lose him again, I'll never be happy. I want to marry him. I merely smirked. A perfect tragic couple, indeed. Just then, I saw Grandfather Sterling's car pull into the driveway, so I told the chef to prepare dinner. The entire family gathered at the long dining table. Chloe sat on one side, clutching Rhys's hand, carefully arranging for him to sit next to her mother. I walked around to the other side, taking a seat, leaving 2 empty chairs between me and her father. Meanwhile, Finn, after his bath, had run outside to play before coming back to wash his hands for dinner. Seeing me seated far away, Chloe frowned slightly, muttering, Still playing distant, are we? I saved you a spot over here. I tried to ignore her, but she gave an arrogant smile. My phone vibrated with a new message. I can't believe you love me this much. Even adopted a child who looks just like me. My family has accepted you all these years, so I'll allow you to stay. But you'll have to cede your position as the woman of this house to Rhys. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. When Aunt Alara and Grandfather return, I'll ask their permission for you to continue living in the Sterling mansion. I'm being very generous. After dinner, go apologize to Rhys. I sighed. Her arrogance truly knew no bounds. As you wish, I thought. You'll find out the truth soon enough. Just then, an elegant figure appeared in the doorway. Alara Sterling entered, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, her demeanor graceful and confident, each step exuding the aura of an experienced woman. She calmly took her seat, merely glancing at Chloe, but saying nothing. Her first question, however, was directed at me. Where's Finn? I replied, he's washing his hands. Finn was always very meticulous about washing his hands. He had to follow the 7 steps his preschool teacher taught, so it always took him longer than others. With Alara present, Chloe immediately seized the opportunity. She lifted her chin, her voice confident. Grandfather, Aunt Alara, father, mother, now that Rhys and I are both back, I want to marry him. As for Leo, he's lived in our house for 6 years. Everyone's used to him, so he can stay. But that boy, Finn, must leave. Rhys and I will have our own children, and I will never acknowledge him. Alara's face darkened instantly. Her voice was cold but authoritative. Why should my son leave? And since when do you have the right to decide who I acknowledge or not? Just then, Finn, having finished washing his hands, trotted out of the bathroom. He climbed onto the chair, and Alara scooped him onto her lap. The boy cheered, his voice bright and clear. Mommy! Chloe froze, her face drained of all color, nearly falling off her chair. What? She stammered. Grandfather Sterling, who had been silent throughout dinner, suddenly slammed his hand on the table, his face red with fury. You foolish girl, you put yourself in cryo-sleep for this man. Now you bring him back and demand to marry him. Are you insane? Rhys cowered behind Chloe, his eyes red-rimmed, deliberately trying to look pitiful, clutching her arm. But she ignored him, staring fixedly at us, her voice trembling. What? Did that boy just call her mom? Finn, having played all afternoon, was famished and paid no attention to the tense atmosphere around the dinner table. His round eyes were fixed on the plate of steamed prawns in front of him. He tugged gently on Alara's hand. "Mommy, I want prawns. Can you peel them for me?" Alara's stern face softened. She smiled. "Of course, darling. How many do you want?" Finn held up 3 fingers, then reconsidered, holding up both hands. "I want 7. No, 10. Soft laughter rippled around the table. Both grandfather and Alara chuckled at his cuteness. But Chloe couldn't laugh. She shot to her feet, her eyes wide with panic, veins throbbing in her hands, her voice hoarse with anger. "Aunt Alara, you said that boy is your son? So why does he call Leo Dad?" Alara gently kissed her son's cheek, then looked up at me, her eyes full of tenderness. "Finn is my son and Leo's son. Of course, he'll call his father Dad." "No," Chloe shrieked, her voice cracking. "No, Leo, you were supposed to be my husband. What kind of ridiculous game is that child playing?" Just as she continued to shriek, Grandfather Sterling bellowed, his voice imperious and furious. "What kind of language is that? That is your elder." Her father, Mr. Sterling, also growled, "If you continue with this madness, get out of here right now." Chloe remained standing, her eyes bloodshot, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Rhys gently tugged at her sleeve, and her mother looked at her imploringly. It took a long moment for her to clench her hands, compose herself, and slowly sit back down. Grandfather Sterling threw his chopsticks onto the table, his voice filled with indignation. "You are truly a child, running away in the middle of your wedding, almost making our Sterling family a laughingstock. If you love sleeping so much, why didn't you sleep forever? Sleep until I die, until your parents are in their graves." Mrs. Sterling quickly stood up, gently touching her father-in-law's arm. "Father, please don't say such things, it's bad luck." But despite the elder's reprimands, Chloe remained motionless. Her eyes were fixed on me, so intently that she didn't even hear Rhys whispering beside her. Dinner ended in a heavy atmosphere. Grandfather Sterling angrily retreated to his room. I asked a servant to take Finn upstairs to play, while I stayed in the main hall for a little longer. As I was about to leave, I saw Chloe waiting right by the door, her eyes red, her eyelids swollen, clearly having been crying. She clutched my arm, her voice trembling. "Tell me, why did you marry my aunt? I know there must be a reason. Did she force you?" I gently detached her hand. "No one forced me," I said softly. "It was my choice." Chloe shook her head, her voice choked. "It can't be. You love me. You can't love another woman." I chuckled softly. "Yet, as you see, I married Alara, and I love her. Before I married Alara, I truly believed Chloe was the only person I could ever love. We met in college, a simple, sweet romance. One day, as I walked past the basketball court, a ball suddenly flew straight towards my head. Chloe saw it and immediately lunged to block it for me. With her small frame, she was hit by the ball, lost her balance, fell, hitting her lip on a step and scraping her arm. I was panicked, but she just smiled and said she was fine. I took her to the school infirmary to get bandaged. Feeling both guilty and grateful, I visited her often, helping her change bandages and asking about her recovery. Gradually, we grew closer. After some time, I proposed, and she accepted. But then Rhys, her ex, returned. She swore they were just friends, that everything between them was over. I believed her. My mind was filled only with beautiful visions of our future, and I gave her my whole heart. But I was just a loyal dog, loving her unconditionally, and in her eyes, that love gradually became worthless. "I know you're angry," Chloe said now, her voice pleading. "Angry because I left you at the altar. But you don't understand. Rhys was going to commit suicide then. I couldn't let him die. Now that he's awake, I can finally breathe normally again. Can we start over? Can you divorce my aunt? I won't blame you, even if you had a child with another woman." I looked at her, my heart filled with disgust. The girl I had once loved so deeply now filled me with a sense of alienation and revulsion. "Chloe," I said, enunciating each word, "I will never divorce her. You sicken me." "Say that again," she shrieked, then suddenly lunged at me, grabbing me. The strength of her madness almost made me fall. I tried to pull away, but she held tight, her wild eyes trying to pull me into her embrace. A sharp slap echoed, Alara's hand striking Chloe's face, freezing the air. Immediately after, a gentle hand pulled me back. Alara stepped forward, standing protectively in front of me, then swung her hand and delivered another, harder slap. Her voice was icy cold. "Leo is my husband. Who gave you the right to touch him?" Blood trickled from the corner of Chloe's mouth, her face stark white. She mumbled, "No, that's not right. He's my husband. We were about to get married. The whole city knows Leo loved me, that he would marry me." She gritted her teeth, forcing a twisted smile. "Alara, you took what I didn't want, but now I'm back, and I've changed my mind. You should give Leo back to me." Alara almost exploded. A swift kick sent Chloe staggering back. "Shut up," she roared. "If you utter another word, I'll rip out your tongue. If you don't want to be a part of this family anymore, just say so." Chloe cried out in pain, the sound making her mother rush out of the house in alarm. "Alara, what are you doing?" Her voice filled with horror. That evening, back in our private villa, the three of us, Alara, Finn, and I, sat down. Finn dutifully brought out the first aid kit for me to bandage the scratches on Alara's hand. Seeing her reddened knuckles, my heart ached. She winced dramatically, feigning weakness. "It hurts so much. Kiss it better." Finn, like a tiny gentleman, immediately covered his eyes. "I'm not looking. Mom and Dad are being mushy again." I glanced at Alara playfully, then gently lifted her face and kissed her lips. "I heard it," she said suddenly, her voice serious. I looked down, confused. "Heard what? You said, 'I love you'?" I froze. In all our years together, I had never said those words directly to her. Even after 6 years, my heart still beat as strongly as the first day. I suppressed my emotions, looking straight into her eyes. "Alara, I love you." In the quiet days of our everyday life, without realizing it, I had fallen completely in love with her. Alara smiled, her arms wrapping around my neck, and kissed me deeply. "Gross. Mom and Dad are kissing so much," Finn yelled, covering his eyes, and ran out of the room. After that dinner, Grandfather Sterling was furious. He adamantly refused to let Chloe return to the family company, but she seemed to care little. Stripped of her position in the company, Chloe moved out and started her own firm, making a grand show of it as if to declare to the world that she didn't need the family's backing and could stand on her own. One day, perhaps knowing Alara wasn't home, she appeared at the doorstep of our villa. The doorbell rang. This time, there were no screams, no tears, no hysteria, just dull, clouded eyes filled with a brooding resentment. "Leo, seeing you next to my aunt hurts me to death, worse than death itself. I've made it clear to Rhys, everything between us is over. It's you and me that are real." She looked directly into my eyes, her voice sweet but calculating. "You and my aunt have been married for 6 years. They say the 7th year of marriage is when cracks appear. You two never had real affection, it was just out of obligation. This is the time for you to get a divorce." Her voice sharpened. "Aunt Alara never truly loved you. She's a cold-blooded woman who saw you as a tool to produce an heir, a pawn to maintain her image. You were just convenient. But me, I'm the one you truly love. Come back to me. I'll prove that you can trust and rely on me. Everything she can do, I can do better, and I can give you the love she never could." Even now, she spoke with that condescending tone, as if bestowing a favor upon me. The woman who had been willing to freeze herself for Rhys for 6 years, now that she could be with him, was obsessing over me. I was about to speak when Rhys himself appeared, rushing into the yard, his face frantic. "Chloe, you can't leave me. You promised you'd marry me, that we'd be together forever." She coldly pushed him away. "I've made it clear, Rhys. I know what I want. We're over." Rhys screamed maniacally. "Chloe, I almost died for you. You can't abandon me like this. You have to marry me." Her face was like stone, unmoving. "You did that to yourself. No one forced you. I waited for you for 6 years. That's enough." Suddenly, Rhys turned and lunged at me, his hands clamping around my throat. "You bastard. This is all your fault. You already have a wife. Why did you steal my woman? I'll kill you." Chloe angrily shrieked, rushing forward to pull him off, then wildly punched and kicked him as if unleashing all her pent-up resentment. Her fingernails raked across Rhys's face, leaving trails of red blood. "Chloe, Why are you doing this to me? He whimpered, crying and pleading. You said you loved me. I slammed the door shut, leaving the chaos outside. I didn't realize when Rhys said, I won't let you off easy. He wasn't making an empty threat. Just a few days later, he spread false rumors online. On social media, he posted a long narrative claiming I had stolen his girlfriend and driven him to the brink, causing him to overdose and fall into a coma. He turned Chloe into a tragic heroine, a woman who, for love, had voluntarily frozen herself for 6 years, waiting for her beloved to wake up. The story went viral, and netizens quickly dubbed it a modern-day fairy tale. But that fairy tale didn't last long. The Sterling family's lawyers quickly intervened, deleting all posts within hours. However, Rhys's actions had 2 unintended consequences. First, the official account of the hospital where he had been treated publicly verified that Rhys's coma was not due to a suicide attempt from an overdose, but rather the result of severe alcohol poisoning. They also emphasized, urging the public not to be misled by false information. Second, Chloe immediately sought me out, her face pleading. I was tricked. Rhys's best friend told me he tried to commit suicide because of me. I didn't know anything. I'm a victim too. If I had known the truth, I would have died rather than leave you at the altar. I regret it so much. Please don't punish me anymore. I didn't bother to reply. She started calling and texting incessantly, making my phone vibrate nonstop. I didn't block her number, partly because she was Alara's niece. I didn't want to cause more strife in the family. But Rhys's actions seemed to have given her a new idea. From that day on, she began posting publicly on social media, sharing tearful messages, even old photos of me. Leo, you are the only one I love. I will wait for you for the rest of my life. We missed our moment, but we won't miss our whole lives. Loving you, waiting for you. Our dawn will come. That was the caption under a new photo on Chloe Sterling's personal page. She continuously posted such status updates, obsessively, as if to let the whole world know how much she loved me. Many years ago, I would have been deeply moved, believing I had found the most loyal woman on earth. But now, looking at those pathetic antics, I only felt pity. Pity and shame, like watching a clown desperately trying to cling to the spotlight. Her social media love campaign didn't last long. This time, she had truly angered Alara Sterling. Just a single phone call from her to grandfather Sterling, and it was over. Chloe's company was suspended, her accounts frozen, and she was forced onto a plane out of the country. After her disappearance, my family and I finally returned to peace. One afternoon, I went to pick up Finn from preschool. The little boy ran cheerfully towards me, his small hand gripping mine tightly as we crossed the street. Suddenly, an electric car sped from the middle of the road, accelerating straight towards us. I only reacted instinctively, shoving Finn hard to the side. A scream, a crash, and then a group of large men appeared from nowhere, blocking the car in the street and flipping it onto the curb. Finn and I fell onto the sidewalk, our hearts pounding, but thankfully unharmed. The driver of the electric car was Rhys. He lay sprawled on the pavement, his head bleeding, his eyes filled with hatred as he looked at me. Leo, you had no right to drive Chloe away. You just wanted to separate us. You bastard, why don't you just die? He trembled, pulling a knife from his pocket, and lunged at me, but the men immediately restrained him, disarmed him, and pinned him to the ground. Later, I learned those men were bodyguards Alara had secretly hired to protect Finn and me. She had feared a desperate man like Rhys would do something crazy. And she had been right. We intended to hand Rhys over to the police, but his parents came, begging for mercy. They promised to take their son out of the city and never return. A few weeks later, for our wedding anniversary, Alara sent Finn to stay with his grandparents at the main estate so the two of us could take a private trip. The journey began in Hawaii, a paradise island. From there, we flew to New York, noisy and dazzling with lights. I thought this was just a normal vacation, but it turned out that in each place, she had prepared a surprise for me. Fields of flowers arranged to spell out, I love you, lavish gifts that left me speechless. One evening, we stood by the large glass window in our hotel room. I held her from behind, the city lights reflecting brightly on her face. Suddenly, a colossal LED screen on the building opposite lit up, a giant message appearing against the night sky. Alara loves Leo. The words repeated as if a student were copying lines in a notebook. I chuckled, resting my forehead against hers. This looks like something teenagers would do. She stood on her tiptoes, gently kissing the corner of my mouth, and whispered, "Leo, I love you, and I've loved you longer than you think." I froze, looking at her, utterly bewildered. Alara just smiled softly, her forehead still resting on mine, her voice a whisper in the wind. "I loved you when you were still with Chloe." Alara was 7 years older than me. When I was a university student, she was already a successful, formidable woman. I had never dared to imagine I could love someone like her. She told me that years ago, when I was tending to Chloe's scraped arm, she had watched from a distance. In that very moment, her first feelings for me had blossomed. She even confessed that she had deliberately cut her own hand just to have an excuse to ask me to help her with a bandage. But then, when I started dating Chloe, she was forced to hide those feelings, suppressing them for many years. I never knew she had loved me for so long, from when I was still naive and didn't understand what true love was. While in Hawaii, one morning, Alara blindfolded me and led me to a special place. When she removed the blindfold, I stood speechless. Before me was an endless sea of crimson flowers. The flowers were arranged into a giant heart, a castle, and the words, "I love you." I felt as if I had stepped into a fairy tale. Alara held a small velvet box in her hand, inside a dazzling diamond ring. She knelt, her eyes filled with reverence. "Leo, our wedding all those years ago was too rushed. The ring you put on my finger then was just a stand-in. Today, I, Alara Sterling, formally propose to you. Will you be my husband?" Her voice trembled slightly, but it was firm. "For the rest of our lives, be my husband, and mine alone." I laughed through tears as I took the ring. She gently slipped it onto my finger, and I, overwhelmed with emotion, laughed and said, "You're silly. This is what the man is supposed to do." "But do you like it?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "I love it," I replied, then hugged her tightly and kissed her deeply. A wave of emotions surged, blurring my vision. "You don't know," I whispered, my voice choked. "I'm just so grateful I didn't miss you." Those were the very words she had once spoken to me. But this time, I finally understood their full meaning.